The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of Terra Station. Commander Deho looked at the massive ship appearing on his screens. It was beautiful and scary at the same time. The alien vessel looked like it was made of pure crystal. Light moved through its walls like water flowing through glass. "Sir, they're asking to dock," said Lieutenant Sujin from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "Their ship is 3 times bigger than ours." Deho nodded. He had been waiting for this day for months. The Galactic Federation had finally sent someone to check on Earth's new space station. These aliens would decide if humans were ready to join the bigger galaxy. "Tell them they can dock at Bay 7, Deho said. "And Sujin, make sure our weapons are powered down. We don't want to look like we're going to fight." "Yes, sir," Sujin replied. But she looked worried. "Sir, what if they don't like what they see?" Deho understood her fear. Humans had only been in space for 50 years. These aliens had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They probably thought humans were like babies playing with toys. The crystal ship moved slowly toward the station. It made no sound, but Deho could feel it somehow. The ship seemed to hum with power. When it connected to the docking bay, the whole station shook a little. "They're coming aboard," said Sergeant Taman over the radio. "Sir, these aliens look really strange." Deho walked to the main meeting room. He had practiced this moment many times. First contact with a new alien species was always important, but this time it would decide humanity's future. The door opened, and the aliens walked in. Deho tried not to stare, but it was hard. They looked like they were made of living crystal. Light moved under their skin. Their leader was tall and thin, with eyes that glowed blue. "I am Admiral Kethvalium of the Velhari people," the alien said. His voice sounded like music mixed with the sound of breaking glass. "I speak for the Galactic Federation." "I am Commander Deho," the human replied. "Welcome to Terra Station. We are happy to meet you." Kethvalium looked around the room. His glowing eyes studied everything. The metal walls, the simple computers, the basic furniture. Deho could see the alien was not impressed. "Is ... functional," Kethvalium said slowly. "But we must discuss your weapons. The Federation has rules about what kinds of weapons new species can use." "Of course," Deho said. "Lieutenant Sujin will show you our defense systems." Sujin stepped forward. She was nervous, but she hid it well. "Would you like to see our main gun deck first?" They walked through the station's corridors. The Velhari aliens whispered to each other in their musical language. Deho heard them making sounds that seemed like surprise or maybe disappointment. The gun deck was the heart of Terra Station's defenses. Huge rail guns pointed out into space. Missile pods were ready to fire. Laser turrets sat next to old-fashioned cannon that shot metal slugs. "These are your weapons?" asked Kethvalium. He sounded shocked. "Yes, sir," Sujin said proudly. "Our railguns can fire tungsten slugs at 30 kilometers per second. The missiles can track targets up to 1 million kilometers away. And our laser systems can cut through most ship armor." But Kethvalium was staring at the older weapons. "You still use kinetic projectiles? You shoot pieces of metal at your enemies?" "Well, yes," Sujin said. She looked confused. "Metal slugs work really well. They punch through shields and armor better than most other weapons." The alien admiral made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. The other Velhari moved closer to look at the human weapons. They seemed amazed, but not in a good way. "My dear humans," Kethvalium said slowly, "these weapons are thousands of years old. We stopped using kinetic weapons when we learned to make plasma cannons. Why do you still throw rocks at your enemies?" Sujin's face turned red. "Sir, these aren't rocks. These are carefully designed projectiles. The tungsten penetrators can go through 3 meters of steel armor. The explosive rounds can destroy a ship's engine from the inside. But why?" Another Velhari asked. "Energy weapons are so much more elegant. Watch this." The alien pulled out a small device that looked like a crystal wand. He pointed it at a metal target on the gun deck's testing range. A bright beam of blue light shot out. The metal target glowed and then melted into liquid. "See," the alien said. "Clean, efficient, no messy projectiles to worry about." Deho stepped forward. "That's very impressive. But what happens if the target has energy shields?" "Energy shields?" Kethvalium looked confused. "Well, you adjust the frequency of your plasma beam. or you increase the power. Simple. And if that doesn't work, then you use a different type of energy weapon, perhaps a particle beam or a gravity disruptor. Sujin looked at Daeho. They both understood something the aliens didn't, but they kept quiet for now. Would you like to see our energy weapons? Daeho asked. We have some laser systems and plasma cutters. They walked to another part of the gun deck. The human energy weapons looked simple compared to the aliens' crystal technology. The lasers were just metal tubes with focusing mirrors. The plasma systems looked like oversized welding torches. These are adequate for a young species, Kethvalium said kindly, but they are very basic. We can teach you to build proper energy weapons. Weapons that don't need to throw pieces of metal through space. That's very generous, Daeho said. But we like our kinetic weapons. They never run out of power. They work in any environment, and they always hit what they're aimed at. The Valhari looked at each other. Their crystal faces showed confusion. Commander Daeho Kethvam said carefully, I don't think you understand. The galaxy has moved beyond primitive kinetic weapons. Every civilized species uses energy-based systems now. Plasma cannons, particle beams, quantum disruptors. These are the weapons of advanced peoples. I understand, Daeho replied, but we've found that simple weapons often work better than complex ones. Work better? The alien admiral's voice went up like a question. How can throwing metal be better than controlling pure energy? Sujin spoke up. Sir, in our wars on Earth, we learned that the fanciest weapon isn't always the best weapon. Sometimes a simple gun works when a complex laser system fails. Your planet had wars, asked one of the other Valhari. Many wars, Daeho said quietly. We learned hard lessons about what works and what doesn't. We kept the weapons that work. Kethvaline made notes on a crystal tablet. I see. Well, this is ... Interesting. The Federation will need to review your military capabilities. We have standards for new member species. We understand, Daeho said. We want to meet your standards. Of course you do, Kethvalim said. His tone was kind but condescending. Don't worry, we'll help you upgrade to proper weapons. Soon you'll have energy systems like every other civilized species. After the aliens left, Sujin sat down heavily in her chair. Sir, they think we're primitives. Maybe we are, Daeho said, but we're primitives who know how to fight. What if they're right? What if kinetic weapons really are outdated? Looked out at the stars through the station's main window. Sujin, my grandfather fought in Earth's last war. He told me something I never forgot. He said the best weapon is the one that works when you need it to work. Everything else is just showing off. But sir, what if we never get a chance to prove? That Daeho smiled. Oh, we'll get our chance. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and when that danger comes, we'll be ready with our primitive weapons. Neither of them knew how soon that chance would come. 3 months had passed since the Valhari visited Terra Station. Captain Hyanwu was bored. Kepler Mining Station was supposed to be a quiet job, just watching over the miners who dug precious metals from the asteroids. Nothing ever happened. Here, Captain, we're getting strange readings on the edge scanner, said Engineer Myung. She looked worried as she studied her screen. Something big is coming our way. Hyanwu walked over to look. The scanner showed dots moving toward them. Lots of dots. How many ships? At least 50, Myung said. They're still too far away to count exactly. Are they Federation ships? Myung shook her head. No, sir. The computer doesn't recognize their design, and they're not answering our calls. Huenwu felt his stomach drop. 50 unknown ships heading for a mining station meant only one thing. Pirates, or worse. Send a message to all Federation ships in the area, he ordered. Tell them we need help fast. Already done, sir, said Sergeant Timon from his post. The closest help is a Valhari rapid response team. They'll be here in 2 hours. 2 hours, Hyanwu repeated. We have to hold for 2 hours. The unknown ships came closer. Soon they could see them clearly on the main screen. The ships looked like giant insects, made of metal and bone. They had sharp edges and scary-looking weapons. Vorthok raiders, whispered Myung. I've heard stories about them. Everyone on the bridge went quiet. The Vorthok were famous across the galaxy. They were insects that walked on 2 legs and had 4 arms. They loved to fight and destroy things. They never took prisoners. How many people do we have on the station? Hyanwu asked.
300.
Miners and 50 security guards, Tommen answered. plus our 20 Marines. Against 50 ships full of Vorthok warriors, it wasn't much, but they had to try. The Vorthok ships opened fire while they were still far away. Bright green beams shot through space toward the station. The energy shields around Kepler Station flashed as they absorbed the hits, shields holding at 90%, Myung reported. But they're hitting us with everything they have. Hyan Wu activated the station's weapons. The railguns turned toward the enemy ships and fired. Tungsten slugs shot through space at incredible speed, but something was wrong. "Captain, our shots are bouncing off," Taemin said. He sounded confused. "The Vorthok ships have some kind of shield." More green beams hit the station. The lights flickered as the shields absorbed more damage. "Shields down to 70%, Myung called out. "Keep firing," Hyan Wu ordered. "Try different targets." The railguns fired again and again, but every tungsten slug bounced off the Vorthok ships like they were made of rubber. The enemy shields seemed to stop everything. Then the Velhari ships arrived. Sub-Admiral Zixara contacted the station. Her crystal face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Hyan Wu, we are here to help. Please move your primitive weapons out of our way." 3 beautiful crystal ships moved into position between the station and the Vorthok raiders. They were smaller than the enemy ships, but they moved like dancers. Bright blue beams shot from their weapons toward the Vorthok fleet. "Now you will see how real weapons work," Zixara said proudly. But something terrible happened. The Vorthok shields absorbed the Velhari energy beams, just like they had stopped the human slugs. The blue plasma shots disappeared into the enemy shields without doing any damage. "Impossible," Zixara whispered. "Our weapons should cut through any shield." More Velhari ships arrived. They fired particle beams and gravity weapons and quantum disruptors. All the advanced energy weapons that the galaxy was so proud of, but nothing worked. The Vorthok shields absorbed everything. Captain Myung said quietly, "I think I know what's happening. Those shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They absorb plasma and redirect particle beams, but they only work on energy." Hyan Wu understood immediately. They don't stop solid objects, right? The shields can't absorb something that's actually there. The Vorthok ships moved closer. Their weapons were tearing apart the Velhari crystal ships. One of the beautiful alien vessels exploded in a shower of light. "All human weapons target the lead Vorthok ship," Hyan Wu ordered. "Load armor-piercing rounds." "But sir, our slugs bounced off before," Taemin said. "No, they didn't bounce off. The ships, they bounced off the shields. But the shields don't stop solid metal. They just make it look like they do." The railguns fired again. This time Hyan Wu watched carefully. The tungsten slugs hit the Vorthok shields and seemed to bounce away. But for just a moment, he saw something else. The slug passed through the energy field and hit the ship's hull. "Direct hit," Myung shouted. "The lead ship is leaking air." The Vorthok couldn't believe it. Their perfect shields had failed. They fired back at the mining station with even more anger. "Shields down to 30%, Myung reported. "We can't take much more." "Load explosive rounds," Hyan Wu ordered. "Target their weapon systems." The railguns fired again. The explosive slugs passed right through the Vorthok energy shields and blew up inside the enemy ships. One raider ship lost its main gun. Another started spinning out of control. Sub-Admiral Zixara watched in amazement. "How are you doing that? Your weapons are primitive. Sometimes primitive works better," Hyan Wu replied. "Myung, can you tell the Velhari ships how to adjust their weapons?" Myung contacted the alien ships. "Try wrapping your plasma beams around solid cores. Make plasma-coated slugs instead of pure energy." The Velhari tried it. Their weapons shot out blue plasma wrapped around metal cores. The hybrid shots passed through the Vorthok shields and hit their targets. "It works," Zixara cried out. "The solid cores carry the plasma through their shields. Now both human and Velhari weapons were hitting the Vorthok ships." The raiders had never faced enemies who could get through their shields. They started to panic. "Some of them are running away," Taemin reported, "but 20 ships are still coming toward us. They want to board the station," Hyan Wu realized. "They can't win with ships, so they'll try to take us with soldiers." The remaining Vorthok ships came close to the station. Docking tubes shot out and attached to Kepler's hull. Soon alarms rang throughout the station. They're cutting through the hull in 7 places, Myung said. They'll be inside in 5 minutes. Hyun-woo grabbed his rifle. It was an old-fashioned weapon that fired metal bullets. Nothing fancy or high-tech about it. All Marines, get your gear. We're going to show these bugs why humans keep old weapons. Sergeant Talman loaded his shotgun. The other Marines checked their pistols and rifles, simple weapons that had been used on Earth for hundreds of years. Sir, one young Marine asked, shouldn't we use laser rifles? The Velhari gave us some advanced weapons. Not today, Hyun-woo said. Today we use what works. The Vorthok broke through the hull. They poured into the station like angry insects. They had 4 arms and carried energy weapons that glowed with green light. They expected to face humans with fancy Federation technology. Instead, they met Sergeant Taemin and his Marines with old-fashioned guns. The first Vorthok through the hole raised his energy rifle. Taemin shot him 3 times in the chest with his shotgun. The metal pellets tore through the alien's armor like paper. What? The next Vorthok hissed. How did primitive bullets penetrate our battle armor? But Taemin was already shooting the next one. The Vorthok battle armor was designed to stop energy weapons. It absorbed lasers and deflected plasma beams. But it couldn't stop simple metal bullets moving really fast. The human Marines moved through the station's corridors. Their guns made loud banging sounds instead of the quiet hums of energy weapons. Every shot put down a Vorthok warrior. This is impossible, one of the alien raiders screamed. Your weapons are ancient. Ancient, but effective, Hyun-woo replied, as he shot 2 more Vorthok. Within an hour, all the Vorthok raiders on the station were dead or captured. The surviving enemy ships fled into deep space. Sub-Admiral Zixara came aboard the station. Her crystal face showed confusion and amazement. Captain Hyun-woo, I must ask you something. How did your primitive weapons work when our advanced systems failed? Hyun-woo smiled. Admiral, sometimes the old ways are the best ways. We kept kinetic weapons because they work against any enemy that can't physically stop the bullet. But energy weapons are more sophisticated, Zixara protested. Sophisticated doesn't always mean better, Myung added. Physics is physics. A chunk of metal moving fast will always be dangerous. Zixara looked at the human weapons with new respect. Perhaps we have something to learn from your primitive ways. Maybe, Hyun-woo said, but I have a feeling this won't be the last time we need these old weapons. He was right. The news of what happened at Kepler Station would spread across the galaxy, and soon everyone would want to learn why humans never gave up their primitive weapons. Sub-Admiral Zixara stood in the meeting room aboard her crystal ship. Around the table sat her best officers and the human leaders from Kepler Station. Velte Zixara, S., second in command, our plasma cannons are 1,000 times more powerful than human bullets. How did simple metal defeat our energy weapons? Dr. Janae, the human scientist, smiled kindly. She had been quiet during the battle, but now it was time for her to speak. Commander, may I show you something? One was a small crystal that glowed with blue light. The other was a simple metal ball. This crystal contains enough energy to power your ship for an hour, Dr. Janae said. This metal ball has no energy at all. Which one is more dangerous? The crystal, of course, Baltai said immediately. It has tremendous power. Watch carefully, Dr. Janae said. She picked up the crystal and held it in her palm. The crystal has more energy, she explained. But the metal ball has momentum. Energy sitting still can't hurt you. Captain Hyun-woo leaned forward. Doctor, show them the shield test. Dr. Janae activated a small energy shield generator. A blue barrier appeared in the air. She fired a laser pointer at it. Energy, she said. But watch this. She threw the metal ball at the shield. It passed right through like the shield wasn't there and hit the wall behind it. Energy shields stop energy, Dr. Janae continued. They can't stop matter. Your shields are perfect against plasma beams and particle weapons, but they're useless against a simple rock. Zixara's crystal face showed confusion. But matter has less power than pure energy. How can it be more effective? Colonel Jack spoke up. He was an old soldier who had fought in many battles. Admiral, power isn't everything. What matters is putting that power where it needs to go. He pulled out his sidearm. It was a simple pistol that fired metal bullets. This gun has very little energy compared to your plasma cannon, but when I fire it, all that energy goes into pushing a bullet forward. The bullet hits exactly where I aim it. Your plasma cannon has much more energy, he continued. Of that energy gets absorbed by shields or scattered by the atmosphere. Only a tiny bit actually hits the target. Dr. Genet nodded. It's like the difference between a river and a spear. A river has much more water, but a spear can pierce armor. We learned to make our weapons like spears instead of rivers. Look at these bullets. This one is made of tungsten. It's very hard and heavy. It can punch through thick armor. This one has a smart guidance system, she continued, pointing to another bullet. It can change direction while flying to hit moving targets. The Velhari officers stared. At the display, they had never seen such variety in kinetic weapons. But these are so primitive, said another Velhari officer named Kethanar. Simple, not primitive, corrected Dr. Genet. Simple things are harder to break. Complex things have more ways to fail. Captain Hyanwu stood up and walked to a window that looked out at space. Admiral Zixera, can I tell you a story? My grandfather was a soldier on Earth. He fought in our last big war. His squad had the newest laser rifles. Very advanced for that time, but it rained during the battle. The laser rifles stopped working because water got into their electronics. Hyanwu turned back to face the aliens. But my grandfather also carried an old rifle that fired bullets. It was 50 years old, but it worked perfectly in the rain. That old rifle saved his life and the lives of his friends. We learned from that, added Colonel Jehuk. We kept improving our energy weapons, but we never stopped making kinetic weapons too. We learned that the best weapon is the one that works when you need it most. Dr. Genet brought up another display. Look at this data from the battle. Your plasma weapons fired 500 shots and hit the enemy shields 500 times. But 0 shots caused damage because the shields absorbed all the energy. Our railguns fired 50 shots. All 50 passed through the shields and hit the enemy ships. Dr. Genet, you're saying that our advanced weapons are actually inferior to your simple ones. Not inferior, Dr. Genet said gently. Different. Your weapons are very good against enemies without energy shields. Our weapons are good against enemies with shields. The best solution is to have both types. But why didn't we think of this? Captain Hyanwu smiled sadly. You've been advanced for so long that you forgot the basics. We humans are still new to space. We remember what it's like to fight with simple tools. On Earth, we had thousands of years of war, added Colonel Jayuk. We tried every type of weapon you can imagine. Away the ones that didn't. Kinetic weapons always worked. Dr. Genet shut off the holographic display. Intelligence reports say that many hostile species in this galaxy use energy shields as their main defense. The Devourers, the Shadow Syndicate, the Hive clusters, they all rely on energy absorption. If that's true, Zixera said slowly, then the entire Federation fleet is vulnerable. Yes, Dr. Genet said simply, your energy weapons can't hurt enemies with proper shields. But our kinetic weapons can. Zixara looked at her officers. The Velhari were the most advanced military force in the Federation. If their weapons couldn't penetrate energy shields, then no Federation weapon could. What do you suggest? Zixara asked. We can teach you about kinetic weapons. You can teach us about energy systems. Together, we can make weapons that combine both. Hybrid weapons, Dr. Genet added, plasma-wrapped penetrators, magnetically accelerated slugs, energy-guided kinetic projectiles. We can make weapons that use both energy and matter. Zixera made a decision. I'm sending a message to Federation Command. We need to start a joint weapons development program immediately. Good idea, said Colonel Jehu. Soon, outside the ship's windows, the stars looked peaceful. But somewhere in the darkness, enemies with energy shields were planning their next attack. And when they came, they would face a Federation that finally understood the power of throwing rocks really fast. News of the Kepler Station battle traveled fast across the galaxy. Scholars debated the implications. Admiral Wu Jin sat in his office on Terra Station. Technology had failed. Sir, we have another request for consultation, said his aide, Lieutenant Borum, this time from the Altarian Empire. They want to send a delegation to study our weapons. Wu Jin laughed. The Altarians. They invented particle beam weapons. What could they possibly want to learn from us? Apparently, their entire fleet uses energy-based weapons, Bjorn replied. After hearing about Kepler Station, they're worried about their vulnerability to shielded enemies. A communication screen activated, showing the proud face of an Altarian. General, the Altarians looked like tall, elegant birds with golden feathers and sharp beaks. Admiral Wujin, the alien said, I am General Kethwing of the Altarian Empire. Shields similar to the Vorthok Raiders. Our particle beams are completely ineffective against them. We need to learn about your kinetic weapon systems. Wujin was surprised. The Altarians were one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. They had been building starships when humans were still using wooden boats. General, we'd be happy to help. But I'm curious, didn't your people ever use kinetic weapons? Kethwing, feathers ruffled with what might have been embarrassment. We did, thousands of years ago. But we abandoned them when we developed energy weapons. We thought kinetic projectiles were primitive and inefficient. I see, Wujin said. Well, we can certainly share our knowledge, but you might want to. Check your own history first. I bet your ancestors knew more about kinetic weapons than you think. Sir, if the Altarians forgot about kinetic weapons, maybe other species did too. Representatives from dozens of species gathered at Terra Station. The meeting room was crowded with aliens of all shapes and sizes. There were crystal Velhari, bird-like Altarians, gaseous, Zephyrians, and many others. General Yunji of the Terran Defense Corps stood at the front of the room. Behind her was a display showing various human weapons. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings, she began, we're here to discuss a critical vulnerability in Federation defenses. Our energy weapons are useless against enemies with proper shielding. A Zephyrian representative floated forward. The Zephyrians were beings made of living gas held together by energy fields. When they spoke, their voices sounded like wind, caves. General Yunji the Zephyrian said, We have studied your battle reports, but we don't understand how solid projectiles can be effective against energy-based life forms like ourselves. That's an excellent question, General Yunji replied. May I demonstrate? She picked up a special rifle designed for fighting energy. Beings, this weapon fires flechette rounds thousands of tiny metal needles. The Zephyrian's gaseous form shimmered with worry. You mean your primitive weapons can harm us when our own energy attacks cannot? I'm afraid so, General Yunji said gently. Your people are nearly invincible against energy weapons, but kinetic weapons can disperse your energy matrix. The room erupted in worried chatter. Species that had considered themselves. I have more disturbing news. Our scouts have identified at least 12 hostile species that use energy shields as their primary defense. They include the Devourers who have been attacking outer colonies. He activated a holographic display showing enemy ship designs. The Shadow Syndicate uses bioships with energy-absorbing hulls. An Altarian officer raised her. Wing Officer Dong Hien. Are you saying that these enemies specifically developed defenses against energy weapons? That's exactly what I'm saying, Dong Hien replied. They studied Federation tactics and built their entire military around stopping energy attacks. They never considered that someone might still use kinetic weapons. General Yunji brought up a new display showing historical weapon data. We've been researching the military history of Federation species. It turns out that most of you used kinetic weapons in your early development. The Zephyrians launched solid objects using gravity manipulation. We abandoned those weapons because we thought energy systems were more elegant. More elegant, maybe, said General Yunji. But elegance doesn't win battles. Effectiveness does. She walked to a table covered with different types of ammunition. Look at these human rounds. Armor-piercing for heavily defended targets. Explosive for area damage. Incendiary for burning through materials. Smart rounds that can change course mid-flight. Each type solves a specific problem, she continued. We didn't abandon them because we developed energy weapons. We kept both types and used whichever worked better. A Velhari scientist named Kixener spoke up. General, we understand that kinetic weapons have advantages, but they also have limitations. They carry limited ammunition. They can be stopped by thick armor. True, General Yunji agreed. That's why we suggest hybrid systems. Combine your energy technology with our kinetic principles, make plasma-wrapped projectiles, build magnetically, accelerated slugs. Create smart ammunition that uses energy for guidance, but kinetic impact for damage. The room buzzed with excitement as the aliens began to understand the possibilities. Admiral Wujin stood up. Friends, we're facing a crisis. Our enemies have found a way to neutralize our weapons, but we have a solution. We need to work together to develop new hybrid weapons that combine the best of both approaches. In return, we hope you'll share your energy weapon knowledge. Together, we can build weapons that no shield can stop. The Altarian general was the first to respond. The Altarian Empire agrees to this partnership. We will begin research immediately. One by one, the other species agreed. The Velhari, the Zephyrians, the Quantum Collective, and dozens of others pledged to work together. As the meeting ended, General Yunji felt both hopeful and worried. They had the knowledge to solve the problem. But would they have enough time? Before the real threats arrived, outside the station, long-range sensors detected movement in the dark spaces between stars. The warning came at dawn on Earth. Deep space sensors detected the largest fleet anyone had ever seen. Thousands of bioships moved through space like a dark tide. Admiral Inho stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Defiance. Around him, officers from a dozen different species worked side by side. Human, Velhari, Altarian, Zephyrian, all united by the knowledge that their old enemies had returned. Fleet composition, he called. Out 2,000 Shadow Syndicate bioships. Reported Velhari Sensor Officer Kilth. They learned from the Vorthok defeat, said Captain Dejin, Inho's tactical officer. The Shadow Syndicate wasn't stupid. They had spent months preparing for this battle. All ships activate hybrid weapon systems. Remember your training. Have been impossible 6 months ago. Plasma-wrapped kinetic torpedoes magnetically accelerated smart rounds. Gravity-assisted penetrator missiles, the old and new combined into something greater than either alone. The Shadow Syndicate fleet moved closer. Energy fields crackled around them, shields that could absorb any energy weapon the galaxy had known. The bioweapons were unlike anything the Federation had faced before. They seemed to eat energy, growing stronger as they absorbed the power from Federation shields. Their weapons are draining our energy faster than we can generate it. Use energy, Inho said calmly. All ships switch to kinetic weapons only. No energy shields, no plasma cannons. Fight like humans taught us. The Federation fleet changed tactics instantly. Instead of trying to outpower the enemy, they used speed and solid projectiles. Railguns fired tungsten slugs. Missile pods launched armor-piercing warheads. Their bioships were designed to absorb plasma beams and particle weapons, but they had no defense against simple kinetic impact. The dark tide of enemy vessels began to break apart. Impossible. Syndicate, Fleet Commander, your primitive weapons cannot harm our evolved bioships. Primitive, Inho replied over the comm. Some ships sprouted kinetic deflection fields, energy barriers designed to slow down solid projectiles. Show them what happens when old meets new. Plasma core kinetic torpedoes launched from human ships. The plasma burned through the bioarmor, while the kinetic cores punched deep into the enemy hulls. When the Shadow Syndicate tried to dodge, the rounds followed them. The alien crystals focused energy into narrow beams that cut through armor, while the solid cores carried the energy deep into enemy ships. Their weapons hit like meteorites, creating explosions that tore bioships apart. They can't adapt fast enough to counter hybrid weapons. But Inho wasn't celebrating yet. What about their command ship? The Devoury-class flagship the Jin identified. Our intelligence said it was just a rumor. Not a rumor anymore, Inho said. Ships concentrate fire on the flagship. The entire Federation fleet targeted the massive enemy ship. Hundreds of hybrid weapons struck its hull. But the flagship's armor was too thick, its shields too strong. The attacks barely scratched its surface. We need something bigger, Inho realized. Sir, what if we don't? Try to get through the armor. What if we go around it? She called up a tactical display. The flagship has energy shields around its hull, but look at its docking bays. They can't shield the openings, or their own ships couldn't get in and out. Inho smiled. You want to put Marines inside that thing? Yes, sir. But not with energy. Weapons. A small team of Marines would have to get inside the enemy flagship and fight their way to the command center. They would face unknown bioweapons with nothing but old-fashioned guns and grenades. I'll lead the team, the Jin volunteered. No. 20 minutes later, Velhari warriors carrying crystal core ammunition and Zephyrian fighters using gravity-compressed projectiles. Remember, Taman said, over the come, energy weapons are useless inside. That ship, the biohull, will absorb everything. We stick to kinetic weapons only. The walls pulsed with organic rhythms, and the air smelled of decay. Contact front, called out Altarian soldier They had energy weapons that glowed with sickly light. The enemy fired first. Their bioenergy weapons should have been devastating, through bioflesh that had never faced solid projectiles. Keep moving, Taman ordered. We need to reach the command center before they adapt. The squad fought through the ship's living corridors. Taman's shotgun blasted through Beltalon's rifle punched holes in creatures that seemed invincible. Finally, they reached the command center. It was a vast organic chamber where the Shadow Syndicate commanders controlled their fleet through bioneural interfaces. Surrender, Taman called out. Your fleet is defeated. The alien commanders looked at the Marines with their primitive weapons. You cannot have one. We are evolved beyond your simple violence. Evolution isn't always better, Taman replied. Sometimes the old ways work best. Ruined. The bioships that had seemed so advanced were helpless against weapons that humans had used for centuries. Later on the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Inho watched the enemy ships retreating into deep space. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Sir, said Captain Dudgeon, I'm getting reports from across the galaxy. Other hostile species are retreating as well. Admiral, I'm detecting something interesting. They want to learn about our hybrid weapons. Inho smiled. The galaxy is finally learning what humans have always known. The best weapon isn't the most advanced. It's the one that works when you need it. On planets across the galaxy, monuments were being built. The Velhari erected crystal sculptures showing human and alien soldiers fighting side by side. The Altarians composed songs about the wisdom of keeping old knowledge alive. They placed a display case containing 2 weapons. The other was a simple rifle that fired metal bullets, the same design humans had used for hundreds of years. To the humans who taught the galaxy that progress means building on the past, not abandoning it, sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best solutions. The Shadow Syndicate had been defeated not by superior technology, but by superior understanding, going backward to go forward. And somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, other enemies would think twice before attacking a federation that understood the power of throwing rocks really, really hard. CEO So-Young looked out at the massive factories floating in space around Earth. 6 months ago, these facilities had been making mining equipment and cargo ships. Now they were building weapons for the entire galaxy. Production report, she said to her assistant, Manager Kyung-soo. We're running at maximum capacity, he replied, checking his datapad. Railgun production is up 400%. Ammunition manufacturing is at 500% of normal levels. We're producing smart rounds, armor-piercing rounds, and hybrid plasmakinetic projectiles. So-Young nodded. What about the alien contracts? The Altarian Empire wants 10,000 mass driver systems. The Velhari need 50,000 crystal-accelerated kinetic weapons. Even the Zephyrians are ordering gravity-launched projectile systems. It was amazing how quickly things had changed. Before the Kepler Station battle, alien species had looked down on human weapons as primitive. Now they were begging to buy them. Ma'am Kung-Soo continued, we have a problem. Master Sergeant Kung-Ho says we need more instructors. The aliens don't know how to use kinetic weapons properly. So-Young wasn't surprised. Species that had used energy weapons for thousands of years needed to learn completely new fighting techniques. On the Altarian homeworld, Master Sergeant Kyung-Ho watched a group of bird-like aliens trying to use human rifles. It wasn't going well. No, he said patiently. You're holding it wrong. The rifle has recoil. It pushes back when you fire. You need to brace yourself. An Altarian soldier named Veltalon struggled with his weapon. Sergeant, this is very different from energy weapons. Particle beams don't push back. That's the point, Kung-Ho explained. Kinetic weapons use the same force that propels the bullet to push against your shoulder. That's how you know the weapon is working properly. He demonstrated the correct shooting stance. Plant your feet firmly. Shoulder the weapon tight. Aim carefully and squeeze the trigger slowly. Don't jerk it. Veltalon tried again. This time he hit the target. I did. It But this is much harder than pointing and shooting with energy weapons. Harder to learn, maybe, Kumho said, but more reliable in combat. Energy weapons can be jammed or disrupted. A bullet will always fly straight if you aim it right. Meanwhile, on the Velhari homeworld, Dr. He-Jin was working with alien scientists to develop hybrid weapons. The crystal beings were fascinated by the concept of combining energy and matter. "Show me the plasma-wrapped projectile again," said Velhari. Scientist ZYX, single quotes, tell Dr. He-Jin activated a test weapon. "We take a tungsten penetrator and wrap it in a plasma field. The plasma burns through light armor while the tungsten core punches. Through heavy defenses, the weapon fired, and a glowing projectile struck a test target. The plasma melted the surface while the metal core punched completely through." "Brilliant," Zixtel said. "But can we make the plasma field adjustable? Different enemies might need different types of energy damage." "Good idea," Dr. He-Jin replied. "We could make smart rounds that analyze the target and adjust their plasma coding accordingly." Across the galaxy, the great rearmament was changing everything. On the Zephyrian cloud cities, gaseous engineers designed gravity-launched kinetic weapons. The Quantum Collective built probability-guided smart ammunition. Even the Peaceful Botanical Alliance created seed pod projectiles that could grow into plants inside enemy ships. But the most important work was happening on Federation military bases, where mixed crews of humans and aliens learned to fight together. Commander Namsu stood on the bridge of the Federation ship Harmony. Half his crew was human, half was alien. They were testing new hybrid weapon systems. "Target acquired," reported Altarian gunner Ketzor, firing plasma core kinetic torpedo. The weapon launched from the ship's hull. It looked like a normal missile, but inside was a plasma warhead wrapped around a tungsten penetrator. When it hit the target asteroid, the explosion was spectacular. Direct hit called out Velhari sensor operator Kelminer. The plasma warhead cleared the surface debris, and the kinetic core penetrated 30 meters into solid rock. "Excellent," Namsu said. "That's exactly what we need against heavily shielded targets." But not everyone was happy with the changes. In the outer territories, Admiral Vexter of the old Hegemony faction was angry. "This is madness," he told his followers. "We're abandoning thousands of years of advanced technology to copy primitive human weapons." Captain Zelkith, one of his supporters, agreed. "The humans have made us look like fools. First, they claim their simple weapons are better than ours. Now the entire galaxy is copying them. It won't last," Vexter said confidently. "When the real fighting starts, energy weapons will prove their superiority. Mark my words, this kinetic weapon fad will pass." But Vexter was wrong. Long-range scouts were already detecting massive enemy movements in the dark spaces beyond the galaxy's edge. The Shadow Syndicate was gathering its forces. The Devourers were massing their bioships. The Hive clusters were activating their war machines, and all of them had one thing in common: energy shields that could absorb any plasma beam or particle weapon the old Federation could throw at them. On Terra Station, Admiral Wujin studied the intelligence reports. The enemy forces were huge, thousands of ships with advanced shielding systems. If the Federation hadn't learned about kinetic weapons, they would have been helpless. "Sir," said Lieutenant Borum, "the hybrid weapon production is ahead of schedule. We'll have enough firepower to arm the entire Federation fleet." "Good," Wujin replied, "because our enemies are coming, and when they arrive, they're going to get a very unpleasant surprise." The great rearmament was nearly complete. Across hundreds of worlds, alien species were learning to use weapons their ancestors had abandoned. Factories were producing ammunition that could penetrate any shield. Soldiers were training with tactics that combined energy and kinetic weapons. But the real test was still to come. Soon, the galaxy would discover whether the old ways combined with new technology could defeat enemies who thought they were invincible. The Shadow Syndicate was about to learn that sometimes the most advanced weapon is a rock thrown really, really hard.